Hello, welcome to episode 159 of Decentralized Revolution. I'm your host tonight, Aaron Harris. Nate Thurston might be joining us. He had some life events come up that he said he might be late. He might not be here at all. We're 18 minutes late because, as you can tell, my lighting is all weird because that light is broken or not working or not charged. And so you can't see my eyes. And then Kristen's microphone, we couldn't get it worked out, but we finally have it worked out. So I apologize for all the delay, and I'm glad we were able to talk. So this is not smooth at all because of all these technical difficulties, but our executive director, Amber Harris, who is no relation to me, but who's been doing a great job for us the last few months, found Kristen on Twitter for us. And one of the big things that as a Mises Caucus we've been trying to do the last few months is kind of make alliances and inroads both with the Bitcoin community and with the Maha community. And I think our guest might have a little bit. She's a health freedom advocate. Amber speaks highly of her. So Kristen, thanks for coming on. And with that worst of all introductions, I'll let you tell people a little more about yourself and what you've been doing the last few years.
Few years, like 20 something years. No.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know Amber, she's on the other side of Michigan, and I love her. I adore her. So, well, some of your audience might know who I am because I come from the Ron Paul revolution, but I have my hand in many things, but most people know me. I spent 9 years on active duty in the Air Force working in bioenvironmental engineering. I'm a scientist. I'm an exposure scientist. So I'm actually mainly known for blowing the whistle on the military involvement in weather modification. And
Oh,
then I also helped defeat the jibby jab and the mask mandates because that falls right into my profession as an
mhm.
expert on exposure controls. Um, and I just fight for all things health freedom, regardless of party lines. And then, in addition to that, I've worked with a lot of police accountability groups and organizations, and I help get candidates elected that are liberty candidates, whether they're Republican or Libertarian.
Mhm.
So, what I've been doing outside of just my health freedom activism was getting like what we're talking about here is for to get groups to recognize how powerful we are in numbers, because I'm wearing my Ron Paul was right sweatshirt, and I just need people to really stop putting labels on everything
Mhm.
because it's like there's so much infighting in the libertarian world, um, and that's where I was for a long time. But I'm like a Ron Paul Republican, and I have to always say that, like a Ron Paul Republican, because well,
Yeah.
much of the Republican Party is a bunch of establishment deep state puppets. So.
Yeah. I guess got a message from Nate. He is on his way in at some point. So we'll talk about that. Just like a little bit about your small L libertarian origin story, how you joined the Ron Paul revolution. Because that's when I find somebody, and there are millions of us, we're kind of scattered and on all this over the last really 10, 12 years since Ron sort of retired from politics, but not from commenting on things.
Mhm.
And I've been thinking just a lot the last month or so, just like how we rekindle that without him at the front of that. So, and I think one good way to talk about how we do that is to talk about what got us all into it in the first place. So, how did you find out about Ron?
Well, before I knew the truth, I joined the Air Force right after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, I will just completely say, I was so ignorant, and I took an oath and I didn't even know like the full Constitution. I was politically homeless. And I remember, I was stationed, my first base was overseas in England. I had these stupid cable channels. We could only watch so many things. And Ron
Yep.
Paul was on C-SPAN. And I listened to him talk about limited government and non-interventionism and just voluntarism. And I thought, who is this person? This person is me. Like, I love what they're saying. And it seemed so simple and so peaceful. And then I just really started to look up everything involving Ron Paul. I came back to the States and got really activated in around 2006, 2007. And helped campaign for Ron Paul in 2008 and just really got embedded in the liberty movement. And, some of the first people that I became friends with are like the OG Ron Paul people,
Mm-hmm.
Luke Rudowski. And gosh, I'm trying to think of like Ian Freeman back in the day. So
Yep.
there's so many people from the Pork Fest days. That was my life for a long time, especially when I left active duty in 2010. And of course, part of the huge part was seeing how Ron Paul got screwed in 2012. So I got embedded in the liberty movement, but seeing what they did to him in Tampa at the convention for the RNC,
Yep.
that's when I started to realize, like, I became kind of an absolutist and was like, screw this. I'll never vote Republican again. Screw the Republican Party. I'm just going to follow like peaceful anarchism or voluntarism. And then I just went through this cycle of like, I don't need a label. I joked that I'm a currentist, meaning like I'm just going to use the current system afforded to me and hold people accountable and try to advance liberty. But
Yeah.
a lot of the political spectrum shifted. As you know, you had a lot of people that swore off the Republican Party, and I was one of them. But then you had the left kind of come in and be just so unhinged and progressive, where a lot of us have the belief system as long as you're not harming another person or their property. But as a mom of an adult daughter and a younger daughter, I did not like the bleeding that our country was going through. So I decided to switch back to the Republican Party as a Ron Paul Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And in the state of Michigan, I'm actually a delegate and I'm on our District 4 Congressional Committee. And what's funny is so many of us are Ron Paul Republicans. So we're trying to not become part of the machine. We're trying to hold the machine accountable and change within, not as an infiltrator, but a participant.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw in the 2024 election is, some people, I have so many of those stickers in my office of vote Trump, free Ross.
Mm-hmm.
And, Angela McArdle and a whole group of people here in the state of Michigan, it was myself, Amber Harris, and a gentleman named Shane Trejo, really helped get the Liberty vote to cross over just to at least stop the bleeding and to get Ross out, along with some of the other promises. Some we've seen, some we haven't, but
Yeah.
I'm still doing that now. And I'll just say the tough part is I have very thick skin, is that the Republicans call me an infiltrator and the Libertarians call me a sellout. So you can't please everyone, but I am also a veteran. So I'm just upholding my oath and trying to stop the deep state.
Yeah. And I know we've got some beauties up there in the LP in Michigan. Andrew Chatterton, who's one of our guys, has done a lot of good work, but there's some personality, shall we say. So I'm sorry that, and that's one of the problems that we've had as a movement, is that the party that has the label on it has been so inconsistent and ineffectual over the years. And we've, the Mises Caucus, we had some daylight there and we're trying to get it back. But like one of the things that we do as the Mises Caucus is like not putting all our eggs in just the basket of, oh, we just have to control the Libertarian Party, then everything will be fine. We're really trying to do we've done a lot of training and recruiting for local candidates, but also like the coalition building stuff and like working with people, whether they are Republicans or Democrats or Greens or whatever else, or, a lot of people are, they're single issue people on like psychedelics or this and that, like, the anti-war rally, Rage Against the War Machine that Angela and
I was there.
So that type of stuff, which I think that has the potential to really, that's where the blossoming into the Ron Paul movement is going to happen, when there is another leader who emerges, because you kind of have to have that national spokesperson to recreate the whole Ron Paul phenomenon. But like, we've got a lot of other things going and have kept a lot of other little campfires alive through the coalition thing. So like, what among these Republicans that you're encountering, and for the record, like the last Republican I voted for was, don't hate me, but I voted for John McCain in 2008 just to not have Obama, after voting for Ron Paul in the Republican primary. And then I was like, yeah, that was bad. So I haven't voted for a Republican since then. Although, I've, of the last 3 elections, I've kind of wanted Trump to win, even though I can't bring myself to vote for him. But so that's kind of where I'm at. But and one of the things that we really try to do is wake up people who already believe in liberty. But I think people are more motivated, especially in the beginning, to start doing things if it's like a single issue type thing, because I think people respond to, oh, I know a lot about this issue. I care a lot about what the government's doing. I see the harm it does, and that kind of gets them motivated and then learning more. So like among those liberty oriented Republicans that you're networking with, what are the specific issues that mean something to them?
Well, really what it's about, like in the state of Michigan, the number one thing is stopping people that are running on the Republican ticket. Like, I'll give you a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was on active duty in Michigan, former Congressman Mike Rogers was the head of the House Intel Committee.
Mm-hmm.
He is the godfather, the champion of FISA, CISPA, TSA, warrantless spying on Americans, which led to the red light cameras, the flat cameras. Even he actually continued to push down. Remember, like Justin Amash, who's also from Michigan, put in an amendment at that time when he was in Congress to like very lessen the impact, because we should, as you know, we don't sell our individual liberties for so-called propagandist security. And Mike Rogers, I mean, by legal definition, I think he should be in prison. Everyone should look up his congressional record. And then when he left Congress, he went and worked for CNN and media and a defense contractor that actually made the software to further spy on Americans through their social media, through their phones, through the cameras, you know, when people started putting the stickers on their laptops.
Yep.
And on top of that, he sat on a stage and talked about wanting to pew Edward Snowden, because of what Edward Snowden was talking about with the NSA are all things that Mike Rogers had championed or authored. Yeah. So Mike Rogers in 2024, this is very important. In 2024, Mike Rogers then decided to run for a Senate seat in Michigan. I felt activated and I worked my butt off, and I got so many people, the Ron Paul Republicans, the independents, the moderates that cross over, the libertarians that cross over. And I said, whatever you do, you're voting for Trump to free Ross. We're a down ballot state. Don't vote down ballot. So what happened was, not only did Mike Rogers lose to Alyssa Slotkin, the Democrat, he lost by 20,000 votes. But when you look at the third party votes outside of the two party system, it was almost 170,000 people that voted elsewhere. And then the totally blind, brainwashed Republicans are like, Alyssa Slotkin cheated. And I was like, no, she didn't. I will gladly take partial credit for him losing. Now he's running again. So this is to answer your question. He's running again. And I'm like, are you kidding me? By the way, he wanted to have coffee with me. And I was like, seriously, go hump a giant cactus, because that's never going to happen. So I looked for people. I was like, is anyone else running? I found a woman named Genevieve Peter Scott. She loves Ron Paul. She loves Thomas Massey. She puts me on her team, who she knows is like a misfit patriot, because I'm spicy and I say things that need to be said. She brought me on her team, and she is totally has libertarian ideologies. She's America first. So what I'm doing now is trying to convince again the libertarians, the politically homeless individuals that still want to stop Mike Rogers, not even just the left, but Mike Deep State Rogers, who voted away our Fourth Amendment protections. So that's what I do, is I try to not just, you talked about the coalition. I'm trying to actually stop another deep state person from getting back, who Trump endorsed along with Lindsey Graham.
Yeah. And that's another thing that we've, hey, we got Nate Thurston coming on here. But that's one thing. Hey, Nate,
hey, how's it going?
Good. We're just talking, to Kristen, and she's talking about, helping and so this, it's Genevieve Scott, you said?
Peter Scott, GPS in the right direction.
Okay. Yeah. That's handy. About having, and this is to have her run in the Republican primary in Michigan. Is there another Senate seat in Michigan coming up this year or next year? or next
no,
next.
I think there's only one Senate seat open, and it's the one that Gary Peters is leaving.
Okay.
And that seat hasn't been held by a Democrat in a long time. And what I keep trying to tell the Republicans, and surprisingly, there are so many Ron Paul Republicans in Michigan, and they usually have just kind of just voted right. But now, when they start to realize that the deep state actors are trying to get back, I'm saying, hey, listen, I'm not asking people to abandon the libertarian platform. I'm not saying that. But this is about look at the guy who's responsible for you getting fondled to go through it on an airplane. That's Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers, and it blows my mind how uneducated voters are, because they're like, oh, he's not that bad. He's better than a Democrat. Now you got Alyssa Slotkin. I'm like, Mike Rogers betrays us behind the scenes. Alyssa Slotkin just does it on Front Street. So what I try to do is I try to work with Amber to get people say, hey, don't run a libertarian in this seat. For example, Nick Somberg, Ron Paul guy, defense attorney, he was running in Michigan's 11th congressional district, but the Michigan GOP wanted nothing to do with him. He got Democrat crossover votes because he represents Democrats for victimless crimes. And he was we need people like that, like Thomas Massey people, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's what Genevieve Peters-Scott is. So if she can get elevated past the primary with the Liberty vote, because we're an open primary state, then we can stop Mike Rogers. And she's the only person that is able to defeat the Democrat, because I have a really good relationship with the Liberty voters here. And they are like, oh yeah, we're on board. But it's getting it more known widely. So, you know, I mean, when Mike Rogers ran, I voted for Trump. I wanted to free Ross and I wanted to stop the bleeding, but I didn't vote for Mike Rogers. I voted for the Libertarian for that Senate seat.
Yeah. And that's one thing that, in addition to primary challenges like the one you're talking about, let's say that it doesn't work and he does win, then that's the, you know, we've been experimenting with that sort of kingmaker strategy and how to codify that and how to really encourage, you know, big L libertarians to do that in certain states. And I think Aaron Day is going to do it in Connecticut, of like, get on the ballot as a libertarian and then basically extort, you know, the R or the D of like, hey, you know, pledge to vote, you know, to do X, Y, or Z, and I'll jump out and I'll drop out. And so like, that's those two things, both the primary challenges, which, you know, in an open primary, you know, it's easier. And then the kingmaker thing, using the libertarian ballot line, like that's the, people will say, oh, you know, libertarians shouldn't do that. We should try to win. Well, we're not going to win the presidency. We're not going to win the U.S. Senate seats anytime soon, but we can use leverage to try to get people on record. And, you know, it worked in the Ross Ulbricht thing, small example, not small to Ross, but I think it's proof of concept that we can use those top line ballot spots to do that sort of strategy while still running and trying to win at the local level. So like, I think it's great that you guys are doing that. And the point I was getting around to in my roundabout way was, politicians only respond to the language of pleasure and pain, right? Like, if it's going to help them get elected, they're for it. If it's going to hurt them, you know, that's when they will respond. If they think they're going to lose votes or get bad publicity, and any way we can do that with the asymmetrical sort of, you know, tools at our disposal, we kind of have to do that. So it's great that you and the other liberty-minded Republicans are doing that in Michigan.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not to disenfranchise the Libertarian Party, but most of the time I was a libertarian, I was never a member of the party, because it was just so, talk about division, you know, you had the progressives infiltrating it when I walked away, but it didn't mean I abandoned, like, ideologically, I'm a libertarian. Party-wise, I am a Ron Paul Republican, and I just feel like you said, I know this is a hard pill for some people to swallow because they're very much stand in their principles, but you don't have to philosophically agree with everyone to realize there's such strength in numbers. And there's like little factions, like, you know, we've talked about previously, like the Maha movement and the Mises Caucus. They're both little factions inside of a larger group or a system. And when we work together and just say, hey, we don't have to agree on everything, but what are these key things we need to get through? Like Tulsi Gabbard, her and I have been speaking at the same events for years. I've had discussions with her about saying the importance of just walking away from the Democratic Party. Look at RFK Jr. Now, have they both had different views or votes that I don't agree with? Yeah, but where are they now? It's progress, not perfection.
Yep.
And we end up being like, I don't know how old you guys are, but what was that, Voltron? Not Power Rangers, where they like
Yeah, that was the Transformers. Yeah,
not Transformers. I think it was like Voltron. I know.
no,
'cause Optimus
Voltron.
Prime is like my secret love.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think this Christmas was like the 38th anniversary of me not getting the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier for Christmas.
I always wanted a cash register.
I'm that old. So, Nate, I'll let you jump in here since you're and your mic's a little hot, and I might adjust it a little bit, but yeah, tell us what you think about all this.
My bad. Let me turn myself down. First off, sorry for being late. I apologize.
Well, we were funny you mentioned that because we were late because my light is not working, and then we couldn't get her mic to work, so we were like 15 minutes late going live anyway.
Yeah,
so
it worked out okay. I was driving home and I had the live stream open and I was waiting for you guys to start like the whole time, and so I guess it worked out. I heard a couple things about Ron Paul, but I don't know if you're ready for any like Maha questions. I was wondering, like, I think getting RFK in there was a pretty big win this time around, but how do you think people are feeling about the progress so far? I kind of feel like he's been a little like quietly getting one thing done after another that he talked about doing, but like kind of not right up there out in front like so many other things that are happening in the administration. But how are you feeling about how that's going so far?
I actually think it's going really great when you consider we have to always celebrate the incremental wins. And that when you're dealing with the health side of the government, you want to talk about walls and barriers. He couldn't just go in there and rip the Band-Aid off. He did it in a very progressive, incremental fashion. And he's doing something good because the Democrats already want to impeach him and pull him out of his position. But I think the good thing is the Maha movement didn't just, it was no particular party. So I have spoken at several like Maha types children's health defense events. And I have actually been in a lawsuit with RFK Jr. As plaintiffs. I think what he's been doing, he's been trying to do what he can without, again, getting himself fired. And I love it because slowly you have parents with children on the spectrum on all sides of the aisle that want change and acknowledgement of harms from jabs. You want people to realize there's people with ADHD or genetic predispositions that don't want food dyes in every single thing. And there's just so many changes that affect such a large population. Of course, there's people that are mad about the change in the schedule of the shots. But again, nothing's one size fits all. Now we're unified with other countries. So I think at first it's pissing off the benefactors of big pharma. And the irony is, if this was Fauci saying this, people on the left would be like, hallelujah. But because it's RFK, it's interesting seeing the hate that he's getting for this. But I personally, in my Chamber of Health Freedom, people are very happy with what's happening. At first, we were like, what's going on? Because I think he like pushed like the MMR or something like that. And we were like, what is he doing? Oh my gosh, he sold out. He's another, what's his name? Dan Bongino. But again, I think he had to do it in a way that was more palatable.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Aaron. My bad.
No, you go.
I actually feel like this has been the most successful part of the administration so far as the things that I was somewhat excited about. Getting Tulsi in there was a really big deal. She's been quiet on some of the stuff I would love her to not be quiet on, but what's she going to do? Speak out and get fired? So, I mean, people, you gotta be realistic about what people can do. The Doge thing doesn't seem to have doged a whole lot, but we'll see if they keep trying on that. I was going to ask, like, how weird is it that RFK is getting so much pushback from people on the left when, like, my entire life, it seems like it was the people on the left that were so against big pharma and these big corporations and all the terrible things that are in your food. And is it really just COVID in that time period where it flipped, and all of a sudden they were in favor of all of these terrible things? It's such a weird thing because I feel like it hasn't been going on for that long. Maybe the establishment people, but not so much like your everyday leftist or Democrat or whatever. I feel like things have really changed in the last few years.
I absolutely believe it was COVID, because you had a bunch of people falling for their propaganda. And any time with this dichotomy of the left and right being the main two like parties, is that if you can find a way to call out or demonize the other side, I was fighting the mask mandates. I couldn't wear a mask, hadn't for 15 years, or a respirator because of a medical issue. When I was calling it out, I had people spitting on me, telling I was killing their grandma, when I'm literally a court credentialed expert on this issue. I can't tell you how many cases I took on as an expert witness. And it was just crazy to see everything politicized. So what I'm trying to say is they were able to weaponize that and say, you're an extremist, you're not wearing a mask, you didn't get the jab, you're why it keeps spreading. That's why the 2 weeks didn't stop the spread. But I think though, slowly, especially with I don't know if you guys follow, and I'm going to say his name wrong. He got a master's in public health. He's with the McCullough Foundation. His name is Nicholas Holster or something. He puts out the most insane videos and graphics of what is coming out based on the protocols that they were pushing several years ago. And I think slowly people are waking up to it, either because they lost their job, they're now disabled, or they lost a family member to real life seeing protocols being ignored. The truth will always come out. And I think that separation is slowly changing, because these people that are upset about the vaccine schedule changing, you still can get them all. Like, nobody's saying you can't get them, but the protection is moved, because a lot of people didn't realize that whole protection over these manufacturers only exists if they're on this recommended schedule. And now they're not, some of them are not in the recommended schedule. So if you had adverse events or deaths, well, guess who's now held liable? A protection that's been in place for 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That's just that I've actually had some success just talking to like normies about this recently. Now that we're kind of outside of the maelstrom of all that was going on, and it's just like, hey, don't you think it was funny that not just with the COVID vaccine, but with all these vaccines, that there's all this like, would you buy a car from Toyota if like they had like absolutely zero liability for like a bad fuel line or something? And it's like, people, you see the light kind of go on now. And that's, again, that's what RFK and, just wanting some basic, hey, let's do the same, let's do the test, let's have a system in which if there is harm, people have redress. But if you give people power to put out something and you have the government mandating it or strongly encouraging it, that's the very definition of like moral hazard. And the fact that the left, like you said earlier, Nate, it's like, 30 years ago, it was the lefties who were questioning vaccine safety and things like that. So in my lifetime, to have seen that completely go the other way is wild, but also significant, which kind of leads me to like what my question is: how do we, like, where is the Maha movement as far as, okay, we have RFK in there, but like, as far as, is there a movement? Is there something cohesive? Like, I've wanted to try to use what the Mises Caucus does and somehow get Maha people to like, what about a campaign? And this is just like complete thinking off the top of my head, that I've never heard anybody tell me it's a bad idea, but like, what about just like trying to get fluoride banned in like localities and like using some of the Mises Caucus techniques of like local lobbying and local nullification and stuff like that? Like, why not a movement to do something like super simple to like build momentum and get people involved to do something. Like, is that a bad idea, or is
I think
Maha
that's a
doing
great
anything like
idea.
that? Yeah.
I mean, it's being done. And the people attached to it are members of Maha. Like my friend Justin in Florida was the lead person on getting the fluoride out of the water there.
Okay.
I know Luke was involved in it too, but I actually live right near Grand Rapids, Michigan, where we're the
Mhm.
first city that put fluoride in the water. But just to understand, my background is toxicology, so I've always thought it's insane to put hazardous waste into our water system. But I think I always tell people you have the most effective change at your local levels, and I think that's great. You need to like it's very tough for a libertarian to win like a big ticket seat. So why not plug them in at the lower levels, like the city councils, the
Mhm.
townships, county commissions, things like that, because that's where you're going to get that health freedom in there. And um, in my county, I live in Ottawa County, Michigan, and a lot of them are Ron Paul Republicans. And they made it a constitutional county. They put all of these resolutions in to basically tell Lansing, hey, whatever you do, we're not
Mhm.
following suit. So I think that's a great idea. And it's very possible because I actually have a lot of people in Florida that are part of the Maha CHD movement. And they reach
What
out to me.
what's CHD?
The
What's
Children's
CHD?
Health Defense, that
Oh
was
yeah.
RFK Jr.'s group.
Mhm.
So that's where Maha was created, was from Children's Health Defense.
Okay.
And the biggest thing that they're trying to do right now is to ban weather modification. So of course I get pulled in 75 different directions, but I think you're onto something. I think that's great. And it also sheds a light, I think, on the false opinions that people have on like the libertarians,
Mhm.
that they're just all smoking pot in their grandma's basement, which,
Yep.
maybe I did that last week, but no.
Yeah.
I think that it allows people, like right now in Michigan, I got sucked into another fight, which is against these AI data centers. And I'm not against AI data centers, but we don't need them in Michigan. You're going to pollute our water, our wells, and ruin our electric grid, which is about to fall apart. So in this group that we have, I'm actually testifying in our state house next week. They're Democrats and they're establishment Republicans, they're
Mhm.
libertarians. There's no party. And when we're together and we're speaking together and we're organizing, we don't care about what else we disagree on.
Yep.
We're there to unite under one cause. And it's the human and environmental impacts from these giant hyperscale AI data centers. And that's where you see change. I think you're onto something, and I think it's very, very feasible.
So does Children's Health Defense, do they have local groups, and like is there
Yes.
because what I would like to do with the Mises Caucus is to do to get like, hey, in this year, let's say 2027, given we're already in 2026, or maybe we can somehow this year, like let's get as many people as we can. Let's pick 3 or 4 issues: weather modification, fluoride, data centers, whatever, and let's try to join or create movements at the county level or below, or maybe, in a super small state, depending on state laws and how they do things, like, get a referendum. You don't even have to get elected to something. In some cases, that might be the best way to do it, to run for county commission or something on that platform. But it seems to me that there's a lot of people who um, are motivated and have some hope as a result of the RFK stuff, that if we could teach them some of what we know and do this coalition building, that we can get some victories and some momentum. And so I think we should talk more about this off air, and we can get people. I know we're preparing for the LP convention in Grand Rapids coming up in May, but like coming out of that, I'd like to have something that is because people get motivated when there's victories. And I think like it
Mhm.
would be super easy to get, because there have been some developments recently that suggest that the fluoride thing is something that I think we can finally have a shift and finally get rid of that in a lot of places. And I think that would be just really fun to see the momentum that would come from that.
Yeah, I can definitely offline connect with Amber Harris. I know much of the Maha team, the CHD chapter, so there's no
Mhm.
sense in reinventing the wheel. But yeah, I heard that the Libertarian Party convention is coming to Grand Rapids, and So if anyone needs a place to stay and you're not a serial killer, I have 4 spare rooms. But hey, I'm like, someone needs to give me like a guest pass because I'm already a delegate for the Republican Party. But obviously, I work with libertarians, and
Well, you
I would
can.
love.
There's nothing preventing you from coming to show up. And we'll make that happen. And you can buy a package, and you can also come, and the business meetings are open for. There's a lot that you can do for free, and anybody can sign up to do some of the breakout stuff and all that. So
Right.
just because you're on the books as a Republican doesn't mean you can't come.
Well,
In fact,
I'm a
the
Ron
opposite.
Paul Republican. Don't forget that part, because I'm definitely not a Mike Rogers or a Lindsey Graham. So
Right.
no, but I
Right.
think it's great. You guys will be here after the snowpocalypse, and so
That's
If
right.
we survive the snowpocalypse.
Well,
it's
yeah,
still
Nate,
happening.
you guys are. Yeah, I was watching some weather today. I'm in Knoxville, and Nate is in the Nashville area, and we're even. At least I'm worried about it. So,
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
Dude,
I
the
see.
saw
weather
that.
app right now, the weather app is saying anywhere between 10 and 20 inches this weekend, which basically means Nashville's done for a bit. And I'm supposed to fly out to the Dominican Republic at the beginning of the next week.
Oh
And
man.
I'm looking now, which is one of the reasons I'm so scattered right now. We're possibly going to leave like Friday instead. And
Yeah.
so I thought I had a weekend to prepare, and now I'm like, oh, we're going to leave on Friday. So that's crazy.
They probably
And
aren't
by the
used
way,
to
you should
de-icing and clearing off
no,
flight lines. So
Well, I
no,
grew up in Ohio, and like if there's like 2 inches of snow, like people start closing, not just schools but like other stuff. And so, like it's crazy. People don't know how to do it down here. Anyway,
well, if you heard
so I brought
on the news that 100-car pileup, that's
where was
literally
that?
my exit. That's my house. Like, that's my exit. Like, I could throw a football to that.
Oh,
Well, I couldn't throw it, but I mean, if I,
yeah.
if you could, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so that was a segue, by the way, for me to ask a random question about weather modification.
yeah, I was going to do the same
'cause
thing.
Come
I
on,
was
this is
saying
like
I've been
the
thinking a
potpourri
lot about it.
category of Jeopardy.
Well,
So-
because like I mean, I didn't know we let kooks who believed in that stuff on this podcast. Come on, I mean, obviously
Hey,
that
imagine
weather
how I
modification
feel.
doesn't happen.
I've been demonized for 20 years for it to now be like talked about it's insane.
Well, you have the floor, so tell us what's going on. And
So
what you
wait,
know.
this is a real thing, and it's something that people do from time to time, or it's a theory and they're going to try it out sometime, or like how long has this been going on?
It's very real. Actually, weather modification historically has been going on even before we had planes. And I'll just tell you very quickly. So I actually watched this documentary by Alex Jones in like 2006, and he was talking about weather modification. I was like, that is ridiculous. Like, if that's happening, that's stupid, because of the toxicants he was talking about. I'm an exposure scientist. I have to engineer those out of the workplace when I was in the Air Force. But I was stationed, 2 of my last stations was Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma and Warner Robins Air Force Base in Georgia. Okay. And those are depot maintenance bases where they basically have cyclical 10 to 15 year maintenance where they take everything down to the last screw or they retrofit it for something. Long story short, in the attempt to debunk it, I spent 18 months realizing, holy crap. Not only is the Air Force involved, but I'm one of the people that freaking approved the chemicals. And then when I started denying them, that's when my life turned upside down. But I have federal whistleblower protection on this issue, and I came out about it in about 2010. And then, I mean, I really got demonized. I did Rogan's TV show years ago, and he was nice to me, but he's like, I don't know if what you saw is what you think you saw. And I'm like, okay. And then more and more it came out, and then it spun into contract work, and then it was cloud seeding, because there's cloud seeding, and then I hate the term chemtrails, but it's stratospheric aerosol injection. So there's multiple weather modification programs. The most popular one is cloud seeding, which still uses silver iodide, which is still bad. It's bioaccumulative, but it's very real. It's been happening, and it's kind of weird. I was doing that fight, had my youngest daughter, was a normie for like 2 years, and then COVID hit, and I got sucked into that. And then states were talking about, we want to ban it. So of course my phone was blowing up. I probably have over 1,500 interview requests, and there's no way I can do that. And I try to lend my voice regardless of how big or small our podcast is, because it's just about getting the information out. But I'm definitely burning my candle at both ends.
Mhm.
But I'm basically on my I told you so tour. It was like you could believe me then or remember me later because, you know, it's real. RFK Jr. is actually going for it, and there's some things going on behind the scenes federally. And before Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned, she had the Clear Skies Act in. And did you know Ron Paul actually had a bill in to try to ban this? So it's very, very real.
Mhm.
And if it weren't, I'd be one hell of a crazy person. I'm making up a story, and I'd probably be in a jail cell for defaming
Yeah.
the entire military.
So what's the excuse for doing some of these things? Like that, now I'll accept that they're doing some of it. Now I don't know how far we're going on the chemtrails thing. Like it's tough for me to talk about this because I'm told reliably that this is a crazy
It's not,
conspiracy
though.
theory. I mean, it's not like, okay, so every time I look up in the sky and I can see a plane's gone through there, that's,
No.
what am I looking at there? I thought it
So
was water
that's the
vapor coming
problem.
off the, okay.
So what you're just saying, Nate, is that's the problem. Every single line in the sky is not weather modification. Every contrail is not weather modification. I know because I'm tagged in all the photos and I'm like rolling my eyes. But weather modification is very, very real. They have admitted it. The government has the documents. They know it's happening. They funded it. It's very, very real. And I'll never forget, it was a Good Morning America episode, maybe 3 years ago, where Ginger Z, the meteorologist, actually fully talked about weather modification and even toured a plane that was doing cloud seeding. And I'm just telling you, I understand how hard it is, but if you can look at what they did with COVID, you should be able to believe. And you're talking to the person who blew the whistle on it and has federal whistleblower protection. So I get though, and it's because people do what you're saying, and it dilutes the truth. Is when everyone's like, "That's a chemtrail. That's a chemtrail." No, it's not. Contrails are a real thing. But if you remember back to when we were shut down, we had during COVID, we had the bluest skies. And Thomas Massey knows it's happening. He acknowledges it. It's known. It's just when you ask me the reasoning, I've never talked to somebody about why they're doing it. I can only follow the pattern because on a side note, when I got my master's in my environmental science book, there's a whole chapter on weather modification with diagrams and
Mhm.
pictures. And this whole belief in global warming could be a reason that we need to dim the sun, which is weird because they push solar. There's also that you can use it in war or cripple another, flooding the Ho Chi Minh Trail back in Vietnam. Also, another faction is you can bet on crop outcomes. So I tend to not question sociopaths and why they do what they do, but I just know that we don't consent to it, and it's part of the Maha movement. They're
Yeah.
addressing it, and until it's banned on a federal level, though, I don't think much is going to happen. It's like a 1980s smoking session in a restaurant. You're still getting
Yeah.
hit by it.
Yeah. It's funny. Well, when you think about like Archer Daniels Midland and all the other ag companies and how much influence they have over the government, like, of course, like, and it's funny. I remember, I think it was on the No Agenda podcast, Adam Curry played a clip about like LBJ talking about like weather modification a while ago. My memory is like vaguely tingling. And so I just Googled weather modification LBJ. And the first result is from a website called the American Presidency Project. It's the presidency.ucsb.edu. Message to the Congress transmitting sixth annual report on the report entitled Weather Modification. So I click on it and I get a 504. This target not responding page can't be delivered. So it's like, I just think
Well,
it's
you
funny
can
that.
watch. There's a recent documentary I actually, because I walked away from this movement years ago because I was like, I've done my part. But
Mhm.
since it became so national and international, I was like, I'll do it. So I'm in this documentary. It's called Climate Trails.
Mhm.
And it's even on Amazon Prime, or you can just go to climatetrails.com. I think it's like $4.99 to recoup the cost for the people that made it. But
Yep.
I go more into my story on that documentary, Climate Trails.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I'll check that out.
I think what would be great is for all of the voices, people like you, people who aren't the everything is a chemtrail that I see in the sky to kind of help. And I know that you already have. You spent a lot of time doing this, but for me, when I see this picture, I'm scrolling through X, and it's like every single
Yeah.
contrail they're saying is a chemtrail. I'm like, all right, these people are crazy. I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not gonna I'm not going to listen to this. That's clearly not. I don't think my plane from Nashville to Charlotte to Dominican in a few days is spreading chemtrails. They might. I don't know if they're going to have some kind
I
of
don't
a
think it's on
chemtrail
commercial
spreader on there. Yeah.
aircraft. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, but I've been, the stuff I see. So anyhow, it would be nice to hear more from the non-crazy side of the movement, because it's a pretty big deal if they're just deciding to dust us with God knows what chemicals at different times. That doesn't seem like something I've consented to, nor anyone else. And I think it's all the crazies that make everyone just decide to ignore the entire thing. Whereas if it were, obviously this is a real thing and it's happening, no, not every plane, but it does happen, I think it'd be a lot easier to get people upset about this. It's so difficult now because even now, this is the first time I've ever talked about this out loud, and I've done
Did you just
over
come out to all of
1,700
us?
episodes right now.
Oh my gosh.
This is a big moment for me,
All
and
right. You
no,
get an
so
Applebee's gift card.
yeah. No, I think that was more of a comment than a question. So I'll apologize for making that comment.
No, I
But
just
I want to
understand where
hear
you're
from
coming
more people
from.
like you. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, because now you get why I walked away from talking about it, because I got sucked into these rabbit holes where they're like, it's actually to kill us all. It's soft kill, and they're dispersing medication, and I'm like, what? I know what was in them when I was in the Air Force, but I think it's gotten legs and it's now more privatized. But you're exactly right. When people are calling every single thing a trail, it's like, and then I feel like it discredits me, because I'm like, no, why'd you tag
Yeah.
me? But it's kind of like, think about like every single time something happens, you have those people who are like, false flag, false flag. When
Yeah.
we actually do just
Yeah.
have bad shit that happens,
Yeah.
Or every hurricane or tornado is climate change, or everyone who dies is because of the COVID jab. Like, just have a random 95-year-old person that dies, and they're like, were they jabbed? And I'm like, 95-year-old people do die,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I still have that reaction though, when like, God forbid, like a 28-year-old dies. Like that's the first thing I think of.
yeah,
Yeah,
But
when they're a
yeah.
healthy person,
yeah.
especially an athlete.
Yeah. Oh wow. Also, I don't know if you guys have seen the show Pluribus. It's by the guy who made Breaking Bad. There's
haven't.
I've
Heard about it. I heard it was really good,
I've
but
only
haven't
watched the
seen it.
first 2 episodes. I have no time to watch television, but there's a chemtrail element in episode 1, which is a great hour of television. So that, yeah, just side note. But the
They
fact
put it
that
in cartoons.
well, yeah, well, the fact that too, it's like it's Apple TV. It's Vince Gilligan, who's like absolute A-list television person, and like the fact that got through is like, oh, that's kind of cool, I guess. He was also involved with the X-Files, so I guess he gets a pass for all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think things like the X-Files, like, which I was a big fan of back in the day, it is kind of what, I guess that's kind of what they call a limited hangout, right? Like they put all the crazy stuff out there, so it just seems crazy. And so the stuff that actually is happening, it's much harder to get people um, to get exercised about it, because they've heard so many other things. But I think, which, to bring that full circle to, like, if there are people who at the local level want to try to ban this stuff, like that would be interesting. Like if we could get a large county or even a medium-sized county to pass something about this, and to see what the reaction of the federal government is, and like, hey, maybe it won't actually do anything to actually stop it, but like, what, like if that started happening, if movements all over the place started trying to bring that up,
Well,
the
there is
react
something very big and federally that is happening behind the
go
scenes that
ahead.
I just can't talk to. I mean, I
Okay.
can't talk about, but
Okay.
trust me, there's something going on at the federal level, because,
Mhm.
like I said, nothing will happen until it's at the federal level. But
Okay.
yeah, but honestly, like, to go back to the fluoride, I honestly think that that's the first thing that needs to be done, because I think it's easier. We've
Yep.
got a lot of data And the thing is like there's people that don't believe weather modification is happening, but when it comes to fluoride, yeah, you know it's happening because it's on the ground and you can go look that they're pouring it into the water in full 5X suit and full face respirator. And again, it's just let's go for the low hanging fruit first. I mean, it's called synergistic toxicity. It's like when you're being attacked through like different routes of exposure, inhalation, contact, absorption, ingestion, and those same things attack the same target organs. Fluoride is really bad. So it's also neurological as what is being dissipated down into as an inhalation hazard. But it's like you got to triage what is easier to stop. And I think the whole fluoride issue is, along with lowering the amount of mandated jabs that are needed. Again, it's about the incremental wins. It's low hanging fruit first.
My wife and I are reading this book, the Casey Means Good Energy book. Have you read that?
I have not.
Okay. Do you know Casey Means and okay. Well, like that's kind of some of the stuff she talks about. She's specifically talking about like diet and, not, the healthcare system relying on just medication and things like that. And just like, and again, 15 years ago, I would have been like, what's the difference between Kraft American cheese and like, properly made farm cheese or whatever? It all goes, and so, but she brings up points like that. It's like the nutrients that are not in this, the toxins that are, a little bit here and there is not going to hurt you, but the fact that our whole system is overloading us with this stuff. And it's not a conspiracy because it's all out in the open. Like what the government has done to the health and food system over the last 80 years really it's right on the face of it. It's incredibly unhealthy, and we wonder why we have insane people and school shootings and teen suicide and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I think sadly sometimes it takes something happening to someone to get activated. So like as you guys are looking at me right now, you may notice that this eyebrow is higher than this one. I had a stroke on active duty. Like I have partial facial paralysis, not noticeable down here, but like literally like whoop.
Okay.
I look like I have some like weird eyebrow.
Right.
Because it's from the HPV vaccine. And
oh wow,
I should have known better. And then I found out I was genetically more predisposed to have adverse reactions. So nothing is one size fits all for everybody, whether it's food that you're eating. Like I always use the peanut butter analogy, I'm fine eating it. Some people can't. So we just have to remember that we should consent to anything that is a human impact that is not avoidable. And all these things are avoidable.
Yeah.
I think one of the great things about the MAHA movement itself is, regardless of what happens at the federal level, more people are talking about this now than I've ever heard. Like everyone in my family has mentioned something about this. My wife mentioned to me yesterday about, they said something about deli meat having carcinogens in it. Did you hear about that? And we need to pay attention to what kind we're getting. It's just it's more a topic that people are hearing about and talking about now than I ever remember it being. And that means they're going to be doing a little bit more research. It is okay to do your own research on things. So we're going to be doing a little bit more research on things. And even if it's not mandated top down, I think it'd be good if you see that market aspect take hold also. Like these companies will notice that more and more people are interested in healthy food and will hopefully get more options, and hopefully that'll help get the prices down on some of it too. And so I really think we're moving in the right direction as far as the health aspect goes. That's one of the, like I said, that's like the best thing I've seen so far over the last year or so.
Well, I just want to tell you, when you brought up the deli meat, just so it's easier for people to adapt, it's the nitrates. It's the nitrates that is in the meat that is the carcinogen. So just buy nitrate-free deli meat, nitrate-free bacon. Is it a little bit harder to find? Yeah, but I definitely do. It's a little bit more pricier, but it's better health overall.
Okay. Do I have your Twitter handle correct on the screen there?
It
Kristen?
is correct.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and not watching it, it's Kristen Meghan. So Kristen is Kristen, and Meghan is Meghan. I can follow you on Twitter. What else what other accounts do you follow if people want to find out more about the stuff you're interested in? Obviously, follow you, but what are the sources that you rely on the most?
Well, there's two organizations that I work with, and one you may know, which is Free and Equal
Mm-hmm.
Elections. So Free and Equal is one, and another one is called WeThePatriotsUSA.org. So WeThePatriotsUSA.org is a nonprofit legal service that helps protect you from a whole bunch of issues. So I get a lot of information from there, but my go-to is honestly CHD. I get a lot of information
Okay.
from CHD. Their in-house scientists are top-notch, gold standard type researchers. But yeah, I'm most active on my X account, but I mean, I follow such a diverse group of people, but when it comes to that, I wish I could, you know what? I'm gonna look right up right now so I can tell you guys, because this guy is such a wealth of knowledge that I think everyone needs to follow this individual on X and on, I'm gonna find it on X and on Facebook, because the stuff that he's putting out, it is being shared everywhere and it's very easy to understand. He's a little monotone, but I mean, it is, nobody can argue with you. I'm trying to find it real quick. I don't mean to like
No,
hold it
take your time.
live on air, but I know I
No.
just shared something of his. And he works, like I said, with the McCullough Foundation. All right, ready? It's Nicholas Holscher. So it's just Nicholas, like Nicolas. No H in that. And the
Okay.
last name is Holscher. Hulsher. Nicholas Holscher.
Hulsher.
Yes, and the stuff that he puts out, like every day he shows up on my feed. He is a wealth of knowledge. I want to say like he is my go-to for all the health freedom information.
Okay.
And the Maha stuff.
Yeah.
I just followed him.
Yeah, me too. I'll put his handle up here. Nate, do you have any other questions? Or I would like to have you back on at some point and definitely
Yeah,
talk
I feel
to
like
you.
I don't feel like we really got to get into anything. It's like an overview of things that we might talk about on the next episode. That's what it felt like to me.
Mhm.
So yeah, we gotta do this again. I have one that I typed out earlier, like before I even joined when I was listening to you guys, and it might take a minute to answer, and that it's not super relevant now. But you were talking a
If
lot
you
about Ron
guys,
Paul.
can I break in a second? I have to go
Mhm.
because of
Okay.
family stuff, but you guys can just keep going. And I
Well,
hate to do
I got
that.
one question for you.
Okay, I got to go, but I hate to do that, Kristen. And I'm sorry about
No problem. I'm a
everything was so
mom.
wild getting started and all that. But we'll be in touch. And Nate, good to see you. And I'll be back next week. And but I'm going to leave for right now. So, all right,
All right.
see ya.
Good seeing you, man.
Yep.
Did he leave
All right.
because I'm not wearing a mask? No.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys were talking a lot about Ron Paul earlier, and so
Mhm.
I typed out, and I do the same thing. Though the whole reason I'm here doing the libertarian thing and the Mises thing is because I saw Ron Paul in a debate with Rudy Giuliani, or I saw some video on YouTube, and so that's the only reason I'm not cheering for more war right now or something. Like I'm a Ron Paul guy. What do you think it is slash was about him that got so many people interested, changed so many people's minds? Uh, I was so pro. I was your standard war hawk, Neil. I was excited. I was excited to see us go into Iraq and just every country that we were getting involved in. And then I heard him talk, and I was like, "Wow, that's crazy." What do you think it was about that? And then my addition to that is, do you think it's possible to get that from a libertarian, or is the fact that he was running as a Republican in those elections sort of the key to why he was able to reach so many people?
Honestly, so I was on active duty, and I can tell you that so many people in the military were Ron Paul supporters. And it's when you see what's actually happening in theater and behind the curtain from people. My husband's an Army veteran, and a lot of times people, what they think we're doing, we're not doing. And then you start to realize, wow, we've become an irrational we've become an irrational offense with our military to police the world, to take their resources and create and prop up people just to take them down. And it's all theater instead of a constitutional defense. So when Ron Paul spoke, it was like, makes sense. Plus, he's an Air Force veteran. So I think people started to realize the people that were awake noticed how much we had inflation, because every time we go to war, what it does to the monetary system is highly impactful. I just think it becomes fatigue. And you know what? On a side note of that, what's really pissed me off is now, like, they're trying to mess with veterans benefits at the federal level. And it's like, then stop freaking going to war. Stop having these conflicts. You can't push us in theater and do all this stuff and harm us and then say, oh, I'm just kidding. Now we're going to lower your benefits. That we're part of a contractual agreement. So again, I think it became mainstream topic. And I remember that debate. Giuliani was bragging about being the mayor on 9/11 and how Ron Paul was an isolationist. But really, when you go down to the foundation and then you go to the history of when's the last time we have legally declared a war, has been, I think, before my lifetime, and I'm 43. So it's kind of a multifaceted answer, because you had economists looking at it, military people looking at it, and just politically homeless people going, damn, that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of what happened with him is the same reason RFK got so popular in the last
Yeah.
election as well. That anti-establishment thing. I think people are just looking for something that is different. I worry a little bit now that Trump has sort of sucked a little bit of the air out of that room for being an anti-establishment person and being able to get. Um, I don't. I think a lot of his supporters feel as though they're supporting that thing, and I think it's yet to be determined whether or not we're going to get that. I've been happy with some things this year, unhappy with other things this year.
Yeah.
I think that's the big deal, and as a libertarian, I always wonder, like, was it just better that he was a Republican? Would I have ever heard of him before if he wouldn't have been someone up there that was on a primary stage with other Republicans?
Well, I
And just
believe
maybe
he
how
ran as a
important that is.
libertarian his very first
He
time.
did. He
So,
did. Yeah, but I
same with Thomas Massey. Unfortunately, the way that
mhm,
every state election and ballot access, it's meant to block third parties. I mean, they can't even get any debates. So, as much as people
yeah.
don't want to admit it, it's like you're not infiltrating. But if it's like Angela saw the vision of, let's inject these ideologies into the liberty faction of the Republican Party. And it, like my husband always says, mega is actually not like a Donald Trump thing. It's because there was mega Democrats, there was mega libertarians. Um, it was crazy what I've seen over the past 5 years, groups of people who were literally anti-government and voted for him, and not because they were like in love with him, but again, they wanted to stop the bleeding, so we could somewhat correct course. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think you can really only get elected on the grand stage right now in our lifetime as one of the two parties. It's the unfortunate truth. And that's why my goal is, hey, let's get liberty candidates in. And then
Mhm.
maybe let's unite. And you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm trying to do with Genevieve Peter Scott for Senate here. She's a total liberty candidate.
At the end of the day, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on, like, a libertarian podcast, but I don't care what the political party is. I care about what the outcomes are, and I
Right.
think that's a lot of, what the strategy was in the last election. What actually matters is the change that you can actually make in the world right now, and so I don't care what letter is next to their name, and I prefer it be a libertarian, but
Right.
if they're gonna do libertarian things, I why would I care what political party they're a member of? All right, I'm gonna let you go. Sorry for holding you
Hey,
over
hey, no
past when
problem.
Aaron had to leave. So
That's okay. I'm
everyone
pretty sure I'll
has
have another
your
snow day tomorrow.
yeah. Oh man, I'm really not looking forward to what's about to happen to us here in Nashville, and I hope I can get out of town beforehand. But all right, thank you so much for joining, everyone. I will not be here next week unless my trip gets canceled, and then I will be here. Go follow Kristen. I think it was at Kristen Meghan. Was that right? At
That is
Kristen Meghan.
correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and we look forward to having you back on again sometime soon.
All right. I'll gladly